Imagine being just 16 years old, walking into your dream car dealership, only to be humiliated and thrown out because of the way you look. That's exactly what happened to Jamal. But what the salesman didn't know is that Jamal's mother wasn't just any mom. She was a billionaire. And the very next day, her Rolls Royce pulled up to the same dealership, turning shame into the sweetest revenge you'll ever hear. "Get out! We don't want your kind here!" That was the sentence that cut through young Jamal's heart like a knife. At just 16, Jamal had always been fascinated by cars. While other kids spent hours playing video games, he spent his free time memorizing car magazines, watching car reviews on YouTube, and sketching dream cars in his notebook. He could name every luxury brand on the street, from Ferraris to Lamborghinis, from Range Rovers to Aston Martins. But the one thing he wanted most was simple: to one day walk into a dealership and buy his mother the most beautiful car in the world. One hot afternoon, with the summer sun beating down, Jamal finally gathered the courage to step inside a luxury car dealership downtown. His sneakers were a little worn out from endless basketball games at the park, and his hoodie wasn't anything designer. It was just something comfortable his mom had bought him last year. But none of that mattered to Jamal. What mattered was what lay inside. The moment he stepped through the glass doors, his eyes widened. The floor was polished so clean it looked like glass, reflecting the cars like a mirror. There they were, sleek BMWs lined up like soldiers, roaring Mustangs that seemed ready to leap forward, and polished Mercedes-Benz, models that sparkled under the showroom lights like jewels in a treasure chest. Jamal's heart raced. He whispered under his breath, almost like a promise to himself, "One day I'll own one of these." But before he could take more than a few steps, before he could even breathe in that new car smell, a tall salesman with slicked-back hair noticed him. Instead of offering a smile or a greeting, the man's face twisted into a frown. "Hey, kid," the salesman barked, his tone sharp and dismissive. "This place isn't for window shoppers." "You don't belong here." Jamal froze. His excitement turned to confusion. I just wanted to look," he stammered, his voice small. Look somewhere else. Customers here have real money. Now get out before I call security." The words hit harder than any punch. Other staff members glanced over and smirked as if Jamal was nothing but a joke. Humiliation burned in his chest as he turned and walked out slowly, every step heavier than the last. On the busy street outside, people rushed past, but for Jamal, the world seemed to stop. The salesman's words echoed over and over. "You don't belong here." He didn't cry. Instead, he clenched his fists, his jaw tight. "Just wait," he whispered to himself. "One day you'll regret this." That night, Jamal sat at the dinner table in silence, poking at his food without really eating. Normally, he would be full of chatter, talking about basketball practice, the latest cars he had seen on the street, or the new sketches he had drawn. But tonight he barely lifted his head. His mother, Vanessa, immediately noticed. She was a strong, elegant woman, the kind of person who carried herself with quiet power. Even in simple clothes, she had a presence that turned heads. She watched her son for a moment, then set down her fork. "Something's bothering you," she said gently, her voice soft but certain. "Tell me what happened." Jamal hesitated. He hated worrying his mom. She already worked so hard, and he didn't want to add to her burdens. But the weight of what had happened was too heavy to keep inside. Finally, with his voice trembling, he told her everything: the shiny cars, the salesman's cruel words, the way everyone looked at him like he didn't belong. Vanessa didn't interrupt. She sat still, her eyes locked on him, listening to every detail. But as he spoke, her expression hardened. Her jaw tightened, and her usually warm eyes grew colder, sharper. By the time Jamal finished, she looked like a queen ready to protect her throne. Jamal lowered his gaze. "Mom, they treated me like dirt, like I had no right to even dream." For a long moment, Vanessa said nothing. Then she reached across the table and placed her hand firmly over his. "Jamal," she said, her voice calm but filled with steel, "don't you ever let someone else decide your worth. Do you understand me?" Jamal nodded, but his eyes shimmered with unshed tears. Vanessa took a deep breath. Then, with a fire in her voice, she added, "If they think they can humiliate my son, then it's time they learn a lesson." What Jamal didn't know was that his mother wasn't just any woman. For years, Vanessa had been quietly building an empire. She was the founder of a powerful tech company, one of the youngest black women in the country to become a billionaire. She kept her wealth private, not because she was ashamed, but because she wanted Jamal to grow up humble, respectful, and hardworking. But this was different. The next morning, Vanessa pressed a button, and the garage door rose slowly. There it was, her pride and joy, a custom white Rolls Royce Phantom, gleaming like a diamond in the sunlight. Its silver grille sparkled, and the spotless leather interior looked like luxury itself. It wasn't just a car, it was a statement of power. She turned to Jamal, handing him his blazer with a smile that carried both love and determination. "Get dressed," she said firmly. "We're going back to that dealership." When the massive white Rolls Royce Phantom glided to a stop outside the dealership, jaws literally dropped. The engine didn't roar. It purred, smooth and confident like royalty arriving at a palace. Its polished body reflected the sunlight so brightly that people on the sidewalk slowed down just to stare. For a moment, the dealership grew silent. The car's presence alone commanded respect. Employees rushed to the glass windows, pressing their faces against the glass to see who could possibly own such a masterpiece. The same salesman from the day before, the one with slicked back hair and an arrogant smirk, straightened his tie nervously. The smirk he wore yesterday vanished. The second the back door of the Rolls Royce opened, Vanessa stepped out gracefully, dressed in elegance that spoke louder than words. Her heels clicked sharply against the pavement, each step echoing authority. Behind her came Jamal, walking tall this time, no longer the timid boy who had been humiliated the day before. He carried himself with quiet pride, his mother's strength shining through him. "Good morning," Vanessa said coolly, her voice calm but cutting. "My son was here yesterday." "You threw him out!" The salesman's face turned pale, beads of sweat forming at his temples. He glanced nervously at Jamal, then back at the Rolls Royce as if trying to piece together the truth. "Oh, ma'am, I think there's been some misunderstanding." "No misunderstanding," Vanessa interrupted sharply. Her voice carried through the parking lot, and even people walking by turned to listen. "You judged my son by the color of his skin and the clothes he wore. You told him he didn't belong here." Inside, customers had stopped browsing. They stood frozen, watching the scene unfold like a live drama. The other employees shifted uncomfortably, too ashamed to speak. Vanessa's gaze cut back to the salesman. "Now I am here to buy a car, but not from you." She turned her eyes toward a young trainee standing nearby, a nervous but eager-looking employee who had quietly witnessed everything. "Do you know what real customer service looks like?" she asked. The trainee straightened up quickly. "Yes, ma'am." "Good," Vanessa said. "You'll help me." Together, she and Jamal walked through the showroom like royalty entering a throne room. Vanessa didn't hesitate. She pointed to the most expensive model on display, a gleaming black sports car worth over $250,000. The paperwork was completed in minutes. Before leaving, Vanessa turned back to the stunned salesman. She handed the keys to Jamal, her eyes steady. "Here's a lesson," she said. "Never judge someone by their appearance. You never know who's walking through your door. My son belongs anywhere he wants to be." With that, mother and son left, their Rolls Royce leading the way. Inside, the dealership buzzed with whispers, shame, and regret. That night, Jamal looked at his mom with wide eyes. "Mom, you're incredible." And that's the lesson. Never judge someone by their appearance. Because true worth can't be measured by clothes or status. If this story touched you, don't forget to give it a like. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. And hit that subscribe button for more powerful stories just like this one. Until next time, stay inspired and remember, you belong anywhere your dreams can take you.